Omar looked out over the vast stretch of desert before him. The sand was endless, rolling in soft waves like a giant ocean made of tiny grains. The sun was already high in the sky, shining bright and hot. The heat made the air shimmer, and the distant hills seemed to move in the heat haze. But Omar did not pay much attention to the beauty of the desert. His mind was busy with one thing: freedom. For years, Omar had lived in fear. The people around him watched him closely, and the law always seemed to be one step behind. He felt trapped in his own town, as if the walls were closing in. Every day was a struggle, with worries about what might happen next. But today was different. Today, Omar had decided to run, to escape, to find a place where he could live without fear. Omar packed only what he needed: a small bag with water, some food, and a few clothes. He did not take much because he knew he had to move fast. The more he carried, the slower he would be. He looked at the map one last time. According to it, if he walked for 1 hour across the desert, he would reach a safe place, a place where the law could not reach him. 1 hour. That was his hope. His heart beat fast as he took his first steps into the sand. The soft grains moved under his feet, making it harder to walk. The sun beat down, but Omar kept going. He thought about what he was leaving behind: his small home, his friends, even the small market where he sometimes helped. It was hard to leave everything, but the fear was stronger than his sadness. As Omar walked, his thoughts drifted to how he got here. Life had been good once. He remembered when he was a boy, running free through fields and playing with friends. But things had changed. The town grew smaller in his eyes, and the people changed too. New rules, new dangers. Omar did not want to break any laws, but sometimes life did not give a choice. He had made mistakes, or maybe just the wrong people thought so. The police came more often to his house, questions that had no answers. He felt the walls closing in. The desert seemed endless, but Omar kept walking. His feet sank into the sand, making every step heavy. Sometimes he stopped and looked back. The town was far away now, only a small dot on the horizon. The sun was hotter, and sweat ran down his face. But with every step, he felt a little freer. The air smelled clean here, and there was no noise but the wind. Omar's mind was full of hope and fear. Hope that 1 hour from now, he would be free. Fear that he would be caught before he got there. He thought about his family. They were far away, but he wished he could tell them he was running, that he wanted a better life. But he knew they would worry. He could not go back. The desert was quiet. The only sounds were the soft steps on the sand and the wind moving through the empty space. Omar felt small in this big world. The sun was a burning fire above him, but he did not stop. His eyes looked forward, watching the waves of sand that moved with the wind. The heat made his skin burn, but he kept going. After some time, Omar found a small rock to rest on. He sat down and drank some water. His hands were shaking a little from the heat and the fear. He looked at the sky and saw the clouds moving slowly. For a moment, he closed his eyes and thought of peace, a place where he could live without running. But then he opened his eyes and stood up. 1 hour was all he had. He began walking again. The sand was harder now, and his legs were tired. But Omar told himself to keep going. The safe place was just ahead. He imagined the cool shade, the fresh water, the smiles of strangers who would not judge him. This thought gave him strength. Suddenly, Omar heard a sound behind him. It was soft at first, like the wind. But then he heard footsteps, fast footsteps. He stopped and looked back. Far away, he saw figures moving across the sand. The people who wanted to arrest him were close. His heart jumped. There was no time to rest now. Omar ran. His legs moved faster, but the sand was soft and slow. Each step was harder than the last. The hot wind burned his mouth and eyes. He kept running, chasing his 1 hour of freedom. The figures behind him grew closer. Omar's breath came quick, but he did not stop. Freedom was just ahead as he ran. Omar's mind raced. He thought of what freedom meant, not just leaving behind his town, but starting a new life. A life where he could work, laugh, and live without fear. He thought of the stories he heard of others who escaped. He wanted to be like them, strong and free. The desert stretched before him like a giant wall. But Omar's hope was stronger. He told himself to keep moving, one step at a time. 1 hour from now, the arrest would be impossible. He could live again. The sun began to move lower in the sky. Shadows grew long on the sand. Omar looked ahead and saw the outline of a small, green place, trees and water, a safe place. His heart beat faster. He was almost there. The footsteps behind him were louder now. Pursuers were close, but Omar's hope was louder. He ran with all his strength, his body tired, but his spirit alive. 1 hour from freedom was coming. He would reach it. He had, too. Omar's story had just begun. The desert was hard, the journey difficult, but his will was stronger than the sand. 1 hour from now, everything would change. Omar felt the weight of the desert all around him. The sun was hot and heavy, and the sand seemed to stretch forever in every direction. Every step he took was slow and tiring because the sand shifted beneath his feet.
Nice.
It was not like walking. On solid ground, his legs sank into the soft grains, making it harder to move forward. But Omar did not stop. He knew he had to keep going. His life depended on it. The desert was quiet except for the soft sound of the wind moving the sand. Omar looked around carefully. There was nothing but empty space and endless hills of sand. No trees, no animals, no signs of people. It was a lonely place, but also a safe place for now. The desert hid him from the world that wanted to catch him. As he walked, Omar's mind drifted back to the days before his escape. Life had not always been so difficult. He remembered a time when he could laugh freely, when the future seemed bright and full of promise. He thought about his childhood, playing with friends in the fields outside his town. Those were good days, filled with hope and joy. But over time, things changed. The town grew tense. People began to watch each other more closely. The rules became stricter, and Omar felt trapped by the laws and the fear they brought. He did not want trouble, but trouble came to him anyway. Little by little, his world grew smaller. He felt like a bird caught in a cage, unable to fly. Omar had tried to live quietly to avoid problems. But sometimes even quiet people find themselves in trouble. There were misunderstandings with the law, and soon the police started to visit his home often. They asked questions he could not answer. Sometimes they accused him of things he did not do. Omar began to feel scared. He knew staying would only bring more danger. That was why he decided to run. 1 hour across the desert, and he would be free. That was his plan. But as he walked under the hot sun, Omar realized how hard the journey was. The desert was not just empty space. It was a test of his strength and will. The heat made his skin burn, and the dry air made it hard to breathe. Sweat ran down his face and soaked his clothes. Omar stopped for a moment to drink some water. The small bottle felt light and precious in his hands. Water was his most important treasure on this journey. He knew he had to use it carefully. One mistake, and he could run out before reaching safety. He took small sips and looked around. Hoping no one was following too closely, his thoughts wandered again, and he wondered about his family. They lived far away, and he had not told them about his plan. He did not want to worry them or put them in danger. The desert was a lonely place, and Omar was alone in his fight. But he hoped one day to see his family again, in a place where he could live without fear. The sun moved slowly across the sky, and Omar felt his body grow tired. His feet ached from walking on the hot sand. He had to find shade, but there was none. The desert was open and bare, offering no rest. Omar remembered the stories of travelers who got lost here and never returned. He did not want to be one of those stories. Despite the exhaustion, Omar pushed forward. His mind focused on the safe place he had seen on the map. It's just 1 more hour, and he would be beyond the reach of those who wanted to catch him. The thought gave him strength. He imagined cool water, soft grass, and friendly faces waiting for him. His hope was a light in the darkness. Suddenly, Omar heard a faint sound behind him. First he thought it was just the wind, but then the sound grew louder. It was footsteps. Someone was chasing him. His heart raced and fear filled his body. He looked back and saw figures moving fast across the sand. The pursuers were close. Omar's mind went into action. He knew he had to move faster, but the desert was slowing him down. The soft sand was tiring his legs. Still he ran with all his might. His breath came in short gasps, and his muscles ached, but he did not stop. The 1 hour to freedom was slipping away, and he had to make it. As he ran, Omar thought about the people chasing him. They were strong and experienced. They knew the desert well. It was not a simple escape. The pursuers wanted to catch him badly, but Omar was determined. He had no choice but to fight for his freedom. The heat was burning his skin, and the wind blew sand into his face. His eyes stung, and his mouth was dry, but he kept running. Every step was a battle against the desert and the men behind him. Omar's hope was like fire inside him, pushing him forward. After some time, Omar found a small hill of rocks. He quickly climbed it, hoping to get a better view. From the top, he could see the desert stretching out in front of him. Far away, there was a green spot, the safe place on the map. His heart lifted. He was close, but then the pursuers appeared. At the bottom of the hill, they shouted and pointed. Omar's hope was challenged by the danger closing in. He did not want to give up, but he felt tired and scared. The desert was unforgiving. Omar took a deep breath and ran down the hill. Sand was loose and he almost slipped, but he kept going. He could hear the pursuers gaining on him. The 1 hour to freedom was becoming a race against time. He thought about the life he wanted, a life without fear, without running. Thought about the moments he would lose if he were caught. His mind was full of dreams and regrets, but he did not stop. The green spot ahead was getting bigger. Trees and water, a place to rest and be safe. Omar's legs moved faster. His body screamed for rest, but his spirit was strong. Just when he thought he could reach safety, a sharp pain shot through his ankle. He had stepped on a sharp stone hidden beneath the sand. He stumbled and fell to the ground. His heart sank. The pursuers were close now. Omar tried to stand, but the pain was too strong. The desert had tested him, and now it held him back, but Omar did not give up hope. He crawled forward, reaching for the green spot. He was so close. As the pursuers reached him, Omar looked into the distance. The safe place was just beyond the hill. Even though he was caught, Omar's heart was full. Of courage, he knew that one day he would try again. The desert had not defeated his spirit. Freedom was still his goal. Omar's heart pounded loudly as the pursuers drew nearer across the soft desert sand. Each breath he took felt shallow and quick. His ankle ached sharply, making it difficult to move, but he forced himself to keep going. Every second counted. Just 1 more hour and freedom would be within reach. The desert, which had seemed so wide and empty, now felt like a trap closing in around him. He tried to think clearly despite the pain. The footsteps behind him grew louder. They belonged to people who knew the desert well. Men determined to catch him. Omar could feel their presence, like shadows following his every move. It was a chase that tested both his body and his mind. Omar's eyes scanned the horizon. The small green patch of safety was still ahead, just a little farther. Trees and water were visible, promising rest and protection. That place was his goal, the light at the end of the long, tiring tunnel. He whispered to himself, "Keep going. Just a little more." His legs trembled as he pushed himself forward, but the pain in his ankle made each step difficult. The sand shifted beneath his feet, sometimes hiding sharp stones that could hurt him more. His clothes were soaked with sweat, and the sun burned his skin. Yet Omar refused to give in. He could not. Freedom was close, and he needed it more than anything. The pursuers shouted behind him, trying to scare him into stopping. But Omar blocked out their voices. He focused only on his breathing and the path ahead. The desert air was dry and hot, filling his lungs with dust and sand. His mouth was parched, and he wished for even a drop of water. Suddenly, a strong wind blew across the desert, carried with it fine grains of sand that stung Omar's face and eyes. He squinted, trying to keep moving despite the discomfort. The wind was like an enemy, making his escape harder. But Omar was determined. Nothing would stop him. As the wind blew, Omar remembered the people chasing him. They were not cruel strangers, but men who believed they were doing their duty. Omar understood that they had orders and reasons just like him. But their goals were different. They wanted to bring him back. He wanted to break free. His mind flashed to memories of his family. Faces of his mother and siblings appeared. He thought of the times he wished he could protect them from danger. This journey was not only for himself but for those he loved. That thought gave him a small burst of energy. The desert stretched endlessly. The sand dunes rose and fell like waves on the ocean. Omar's legs ached, and his breaths were heavy, but he refused to look back again. He kept his eyes fixed on the safe place ahead. Then something caught his attention. A small bird appeared nearby, fluttering weakly. Omar watched it struggle against the wind. It was fragile, but still fighting to survive. Omar felt a strange connection to the bird. Both were fighting in a harsh, unforgiving world, hoping for a chance to live free. Omar forced himself to smile. Even in this difficult moment, life showed signs of hope. The thought gave him strength. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps behind him changed. Omar realized the pursuers were splitting up. Some tried to come around the sides, hoping to trap him. Omar's mind raced. He knew he had to be smart, not just fast. He looked for a way to change direction without losing speed. Sand made it difficult to run sideways, but he found a shallow valley between two dunes. He headed toward it quickly, hoping the uneven ground would slow the pursuers. As Omar moved, he remembered the stories he had heard about the desert. Travelers spoke of hidden dangers, sharp rocks, sudden holes, and quicksand. Omar's heart beat faster. The desert was not just a place of escape, but full of risks. He felt the sand under his feet change. It became softer and deeper. Omar's steps slowed. The pursuers were still gaining ground. His ankle throbbed painfully, but he kept going. The safe place was closer now. He could see a small cluster of trees and a patch of green grass. The water that shimmered in the distance promised relief. Omar's mind was filled with images of cool water washing over his face, fresh food, and rest. The idea of safety was almost within reach, but then his foot slipped on a loose patch of sand, and he fell forward, scraping his hands on the rough ground. The pain surprised him, but Omar quickly got up, could not afford to lose time. The pursuers were almost upon him now. Their voices were louder and angrier. Omar felt trapped, like a wild animal cornered in the desert. He looked around desperately for any help or chance to hide. The desert had few hiding spots, but Omar spotted a small rock formation nearby. He ran toward it, hoping to use the rocks as a shield. Behind the rocks, Omar crouched down, breathing heavily. His heart was pounding so loud he thought the pursuers might hear it. He listened carefully. The footsteps were close, but the pursuers had not yet seen him. Omar's mind worked fast. He thought about his options. The rock was a good place to hide for a moment, but he could not stay forever. The green safety spot was still ahead, and he had to reach it. As he waited, Omar felt the desert wind cool his burning skin a little. The pain in his ankle was sharp, but his body was full of adrenaline. He knew he had to be patient and smart. Suddenly a voice shouted near the rocks. Omar held his breath. The pursuers were searching carefully, but they had not found him yet. Minutes passed like hours. Omar's thoughts raced. He thought about how this chase had started and why he was running. It was not because he wanted to break the law or hurt anyone. It was because he wanted to live freely. He remembered the warnings from friends to be careful. They had told him the desert was dangerous and that running was risky. But Omar believed that the chance to be free was worth every risk. The pursuers slowly moved away from the rocks. Omar waited a moment, then quietly slipped out from his hiding place. He had to keep moving. Every minute was precious. His legs were weak, but Omar walked carefully toward the green spot. The trees looked bigger now, and the sound of water was clearer. Hope filled his heart again. As he moved, Omar thought about the future. He dreamed of a life where he could work, laugh, and live without fear. A life where the desert was behind him, and safety was ahead. The pursuers were still nearby, but Omar was focused. He knew that if he kept going, he could make it. His freedom was just an hour away. Omar felt tired, but his spirit was strong. The desert had tested him, but he had not given up. The chase was not over yet, but Omar believed in himself. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. The sand was still hot, but the green safety spot was closer than ever. Omar's journey through the desert was not just a fight against the sand and heat, but a battle for his life and dreams. Every step told a story of courage and hope. The desert was harsh, but Omar's will was stronger. Omar's breath came fast and heavy as the pursuers closed in around him. The green spot of safety was just ahead, but now it felt farther than ever. His ankle throbbed with pain, and every step was a struggle. The desert, which had once seemed like a hopeful path, now felt like a prison tightening its grip. He looked back once more. The faces behind him were determined and serious. These were men who believed they were doing the right thing. They moved quickly and carefully, trained to catch those who tried to escape. Omar understood that they had rules to follow, just like he had reasons to run. But their goals could never be the same. Omar felt a sharp pain as his foot hit a hidden rock. He stumbled but did not fall. He forced himself to stand tall and push forward. The green trees ahead promised water, rest, and safety, everything Omar longed for. Yet the pursuers were too close. He could almost hear their voices shouting orders. Suddenly, one of the pursuers called out loudly, "Stop, you're surrounded." Omar's heart jumped. There was no way out. The desert was open and wide, but the men had cut off every path. He was trapped. Omar slowed down, his legs weak but his spirit not yet broken. He knew he could not outrun them anymore. The pain in his ankle was too much, and the men were skilled hunters. They had closed the circle. The first man reached Omar and grabbed his arm. Omar looked into his eyes and saw no hatred, only duty. The man tightened his grip and pulled Omar to his feet. "You are under arrest," the man said firmly, but without anger. Omar nodded slowly. He felt the weight of defeat, but also a strange relief. The chase was over. The men searched Omar carefully, taking his small bag and water. Omar did not resist. He knew that fighting now would only make things worse. His dreams of freedom were paused, but they were not gone. The leader of the pursuers spoke quietly to Omar. "You are lucky. This desert can be deadly. Many do not survive the journey." Omar listened, understanding the truth behind the words. They began to walk back toward the town, slowly but surely. Omar's body ached, but his mind was clearer now. The desert had tested him, and though he was caught, he had learned much about himself. As they walked, Omar thought about the choices he had made. Running was dangerous, but staying meant living in fear. Neither was easy. He wondered what the future held. Would he be judged or forgiven? Would he ever get another chance at freedom? The men did not speak much during the walk. The silence was heavy, but not cruel. Omar felt that they respected his courage, even if they could not let him go. The sun began to set, painting the sky with orange and pink colors. The desert looked beautiful in the fading light, but Omar saw it as a place of struggle and hope. He thought about the moments ahead, the town, the questions, the unknown future. Despite everything, Omar did not lose hope. He remembered the green spot just beyond the hills. It was still out there, waiting for him, a symbol of the life he wanted to live. Omar knew he had to be patient. Freedom might not come today, but one day he would try again. The desert had not broken him, it had made him stronger. As night fell, the group reached the town. Lights twinkled in the distance, and the sounds of life grew louder. Omar's heart was heavy, but he stood tall. He was ready to face whatever came next. Men led Omar to a small building where he would stay. The place was simple and quiet. Omar sat down and took a deep breath. The pain in his ankle reminded him of the journey, but also of his will to survive. In that quiet room, Omar thought about his story. It was not just about escape or capture, but about courage, hope, and the desire to be free. The desert had tested his body and soul, but it had not taken away his spirit. Omar closed his eyes and made a promise to himself. He would not give up. One day he would find freedom again. He would live without fear. The desert was only one chapter in his life, not the end. The night was calm, and Omar's thoughts were quiet. felt tired but hopeful. The journey was hard, but the dream of freedom was stronger than ever. Outside, the stars shone bright in the clear sky. Omar looked up and saw them as guides, shining light on the path ahead. He knew that no matter how many times he fell, he would always stand again. The story of Omar was not just about one man running across the sand. It was about the strength inside all of us, the strength to keep moving forward, even when the road is tough. Tomorrow was a new day, and Omar was ready to face it with courage. Omar sat quietly in the small room, the walls plain and the air still. Outside, the world moved on, but inside, time felt slow. His body ached from the long journey and the pain in his ankle. He thought about what had happened and what would come next. Though he was caught, his spirit was far from broken. In his mind, Omar walked again across the desert. The sun beating down, the sand shifting beneath his feet, and the hope of freedom driving him forward. That journey had been hard, but it showed him how strong he really was. He knew that even though he was inside these walls now, the fire inside him was still alive. Omar thought about the men who had caught him. They were not cruel, but they were doing their duty. It made him understand that life was full of difficult choices. Sometimes people on opposite sides of a story both believed they were right. Omar did not hate them. Instead, he hoped one day they might understand him. His thoughts moved to his family. He missed them deeply. He wished he could tell them he was safe, even if he was not free yet. He hoped they were well and waiting for him. Omar promised himself he would find a way to be with them again, in a place where fear did not live. As the hours passed, Omar began to think about what freedom really meant. It was not just about running away or escaping danger. Freedom was about feeling safe, about living without fear, about having a chance to build a better life. Omar knew that freedom was a journey, not a place. He thought about the green spot in the desert, the small patch of trees and water that had given him hope. That place was more than just a destination. It was a symbol of hope, strength, and the possibility of change. Omar realized that his story was not over. Though he had been caught, he still had dreams, still had the will to fight. For a better future, the desert had tested him, but it had also taught him lessons about courage and patience. He looked around the room and noticed small things: a crack in the wall, a ray of sunlight through the window, the sound of footsteps. Outside, these simple things reminded him that life continued. And so would he. Omar began to think about what he could do next. He knew that waiting was hard, but sometimes it was necessary. He would use this time to plan, to rest, and to prepare. Desert had shown him that strength came not just from the body, but from the mind and heart. He thought about the people who had helped him along the way, friends who warned him, strangers who offered kindness. Their support was like a thread holding him up. Omar wanted to be that thread for others one day. His dreams became clearer. He dreamed of a day when he could walk freely without looking over his shoulder, a day when he could work with his hands, laugh with friends, and sleep peacefully at night. Omar believed that day would come. As night fell, Omar felt a quiet peace settle inside him. Fear was still there, but it was softer now, replaced by hope. He looked out the small window and saw the stars shining bright. They reminded him of the green spot in the desert and the freedom waiting beyond. Omar closed his eyes and made a promise. He would never give up. No matter how hard the road, he would keep moving forward. His journey was not just about running away, but about finding a place to belong. The room was small and simple, but Omar's dreams were big. He knew that even the longest journeys start with one step, and he was ready to take those steps, no matter where they led. Outside, the world was quiet. But inside Omar's heart, a new story was beginning, a story of courage, hope, and the strength to keep fighting. The desert had tested him, but Omar was stronger because of it. One day freedom would be his, and until then, he would hold on to the hope that carried him across the sand.